Recording. Perfect. All right, well, Chris, thanks for joining me. Want to run through just a couple questions for you and kind of get a sense of your recruiting experience, at least up to this point, because I know we still got a little ways to go, which is fine. But first question, what is your favorite part and least favorite part about the recruiting process so far?
My favorite part is definitely going through the process with my daughter. Just watching, we started this, I guess, end of her 8th grade year. She's just finishing up her sophomore year. And so just seeing her grow from this experience in those, 2-3 years has been awesome.
Yeah.
I think back to the first camp she went to, and she was absolutely scared to death. She probably played that way. And then on the ride home, she was so ecstatic that she did it, and it was done. Regardless of how she played, she had done something she had never done before. And then you look a year or two later, and she goes to camp, and she's in the moment and playing volleyball and not worrying about being at a college camp.
Sure.
And so that's just one example of a great life lesson she got to learn going through this process. And as you mentioned, we're not done yet. She hasn't committed. So who knows where it ends, but even if it, regardless of where it ends, she's had a million great life lessons, going through the recruiting process.
Yeah. Yeah. What, is there a specific moment, so at least as of right now, that's so far been your favorite moment for the recruiting process?
My favorite moment, or maybe something that encapsulates it all, is before they changed the rules, my daughter was having calls with coaches.
Yeah.
No, I'll never forget, and she laughs about this now, but she wasn't laughing the day it happened. So she's on a call with a coach, and we'd always prepared. We'd prepare before, and I'd ask her questions, and she'd have her answers. But like a lot of, at that time, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, she didn't have a ton of follow-up questions or follow-up answers.
Yeah.
And so the question was, hey, what are you looking for in a campus? And so she kind of said the generic things that she would say on that. And then unfortunately they asked a follow-up question, which was, well, what else? And her answer to that question was, well, I like the buildings and stuff.
The buildings and stuff.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you asked her now, she laughs about it. And it's such a great, it was such a great experience because she realized the coach didn't care.
No.
The coach, she was 15. And you know what? She woke up the next day, the world was still, the sun still came up. And that example right there is kind of epitomizes the whole process. And that, again, regardless of where she ends up, that those experiences you can never take away from her.
Sure.
And I always tell her, when she goes to that first presentation, when she's in her career, there's going to be some people who do that presentation for the first time. She's going to be thinking back on all these things she did in recruiting, which were presentations, which were job interviews. And I just think girls that go through it are so far ahead of other kids their age that don't have this opportunity.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny because I talk to a lot of college coaches, and very often they just want an answer. Like they're not really always looking for anything specific. They want you to answer, and they want you to be honest, like buildings and stuff. Like if you don't have anything else, then
Right.
anything else, buildings and stuff. And so I think that's fine. And they would rather have that. Coaches would rather have that kind of genuineness from student athletes as opposed to, just the scripted, like general answers to everything. And so I think just being honest and, I don't have really anything else. I think that's totally fine. They want you to have an answer and be genuine with your answer. So.
Yeah. And, contrasting that to then she got to the point where she would ask about blocking. She's a middle.
Yeah.
So blocking is a big deal to her. And she'd ask a coach about, hey, what's your blocking style, or what, blocking techniques do you use? And then it was awesome to hear her going through the whole conversation with them, and they asked a follow-up question and she knew it. And so I got to see her grow and realize, wow, she knows a lot about volleyball.
Oh yeah. She's paying attention. That's good.
Yeah. And it was like, you could see her confidence grow because she figured out, when I talk to a coach, I want to talk about blocking because I'm confident.
Yeah.
I'm not confident about buildings and stuff, but I am confident about blocking and talking about that. So it's kind of a great example of.
No, and I think that's good too. Like for athletes, just talk about what you like, talk about what you have experienced so far, because again, they want to hear those things.
Yep.
They're not always just looking for the cookie cutter answer. So yeah, no, I think that's good.
And then was the next question my least
least favorite part about the recruiting process so far?
What I would say the least favorite thing for us, I don't know if it's a part, but it just is that it seems like all the focus is on when you commit instead of the process.
Yeah.
And we talked to Ella a lot about, the most important day is not the day you commit. It's August 1st of 2022 when you walk on campus. Like ultimately that's what matters.
Yeah.
And if you're rushing to do something or you get consumed with seeing girls post on Instagram when they commit, you don't know the story behind their commitment.
Yeah.
But if that's your objective is just to get to that point so you can post something on Instagram, ultimately you're not going to achieve what you want. And that's finding, the right fit.
Yeah.
So if for you to find the right fits takes 2 months or it takes 3 years, as I've heard you say before, everybody's recruiting experience is different.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is, are you on the right campus August of 2022?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the getting somewhere where you're going to stay and you plan on staying, I think is really, really important. I know I've had several conversations with parents that have started off with, well, if she just doesn't like it the first year, she can transfer, right? And I immediately back off from the conversation because I just say that's not at all what I'm about. It's not, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But that's not what I'm about when it comes to helping athletes. And I know kids transfer for a lot of different reasons. There's lots of variables kind of outside of your control. But I think if the mindset is, if we don't like it, we'll just transfer, and that's not a good situation for anybody, in my opinion. So yeah, I know find the right fit, coach wise, environment wise, academic wise, all that kind of stuff is really, really important. So, all right. What else? Any of your least favorite things so far?
What are the least favorite things? It's funny. Some of the least favorite thing, or some of the pain's the best thing that happened for us, right? I mean, that's what I say about the journey. So awesome to get to do it with my kid. One, now she's 16 and we have this complete bond over volleyball.
Yeah.
That, if she's 16 and not playing club volleyball and going through this process, is she hanging out with dad as much? Is she talking to dad as much? Probably not,
Yeah.
So selfishly as a dad, I love the process. And again, regardless of where the end result is, you're giving me more hours and days with my kid that frankly I wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah.
And so some of the least favorite things are seeing her struggle or be disappointed. But ultimately, as a dad, those are great. I mean, when you go to a tournament and that coach is there to watch you, you play terrible. It happens, right?
Sure.
Your kid cries, and that's no fun to see.
No.
But then what a great experience in the long run. In the moment, it rips your heart out.
Sure.
In the long run, you laugh about it. It's an opportunity to make a point about improving on one of her skills, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or frankly, she had a situation one time where college was there to see her. They'd never reached out to her before, but it was a school she liked. In that game, her coach pulled her over the side and basically told her, you have to get a block. You're killing us here. 5 feet away from that college coach that was. And she came off and went, oh my God, Dad, I cannot believe that happened. And no kidding, 2 hours later, we get a recruiting questionnaire from that college.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get to tell her, hey kid, you got to play. But, good or bad, just play, try to get better, and these things will work themselves out. So
there's definitely some, the bad experience or negative experience things that can lead to some really positive outcomes, right? Like building that going through the adversity, going
Absolutely.
through the what's the word for bounce back? I can't remember what it is. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. The ability to bounce back from something. Can't remember what that word is. Shoot it out of my brain. Anyway, but the ability to bounce back from different experiences, those are important life lessons to have. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, look at this was the Warriors a few years ago were going on that undefeated. They had won however many games and they were going to finish the season undefeated or something like that. Then they finally lost. It's like, man, you'd much rather lose that game then than, game 7 of the of the championship, right? Or something like that, but just sometimes like you need to lose and you need to mess up to get some some experience along the way. I think it can be really beneficial. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
What do you think maybe some of the biggest roadblocks have been with the recruiting process so far? And then how can other parents help overcome that?
Yeah. I'd say probably the biggest roadblock is getting an honest assessment of your daughter's talent and kind of where she fits in.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's one person's responsibility. In our case, obviously we've used you, which has been a great help to gather data. Skyline's awesome with their coaches provide information. And then frankly, we've scoured, the internet, looking at rosters of college teams. We've gone to camps. We've watched a ton of volleyball, college volleyball, all those things to kind of get an honest assessment of where she fits.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest challenge. And maybe the biggest part of that is just being honest as a family. Because ultimately the result's going to be what it is. You can think your daughter's the greatest in the world. If she's not Stanford level, you can keep telling yourself she is for 4 years, but that's not going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So the sooner you're honest about where your kid is and what she needs to work on, the quicker you get past that roadblock of kind of uncertainty and that question of where do I fit in.
Yeah. How has that been for you guys as far as going through the process so far and like maybe the assessment from a year and a half ago to what it is now? Like, how has that, I don't want to say progressed, but like, what are some of kind of the ebbs and flows maybe of that, of figuring that out? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a couple, it's coach's perspective, but it's also your kids figuring out what they want to do, right? Mm. So honest assessment includes, she's got to tell me, her mom and I, what she's looking for. And what she looked for as a freshman is very different than her answers are as she's about to be a junior.
Yeah.
So that honest assessment, sometimes it just takes time.
Sure.
The other part is, it's like the more data you gather, the more comfortable you can get. Now, sometimes that data tells you your kid is not what you thought they were, but sometimes it means, oh, this is what I need to work on to get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
Example of that is, and this was before the rule changed, Ella went to a camp. You reached out to the coach and said, hey, what do you think? And this is a school she really likes. And they said, we like her, but we tested her vertical and she's got to jump higher. Yeah. By the time she gets here, she doesn't have to be at 10 feet, but she's got to get close. I mean, what an easy thing for me to turn around and say, hey, this is what Coach Bibler got.
Yeah.
And you know what? From that point on, she started doing vertical training and taking it serious. And she's increased her vertical significantly.
Yeah.
And it's simply because we got that honest assessment from that college coach and from you early on in the process. And I can't imagine, everybody talks about vertical, and for her position, it's not that it isn't important for everybody's, but for blocking and all that kind of stuff and attacking, it's important for her position. If we wouldn't have gotten that honest assessment, we probably wouldn't have committed as much time over the last year and a half, almost 2 years to that, just because we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have known how important that is.
Yeah. And sometimes that can be hard too, right? Because you're getting the emails from this school, and you're getting the camp invites from that school, and you're getting whatever else from, whatever schools. And sometimes when you're getting all of that information, it almost sets forth a precedent of, well, I don't really have to get any better. I don't have to work any harder because all these schools really like me, which there's obviously some truth to that, in that they're interested, they see a lot of things they like, right?
Right.
But like you said, from freshman year to sophomore year, like there's a lot of changes in what she's looking for. And same thing from the coach perspective. I watch you play as a freshman, right? I want to see improvements as a sophomore and then as a junior in order to go through this process if you really want to come play for me. So yeah, no, I think that's a good point for sure.
And it's not personal. That's what we talked to Ella about. It's not personal. That coach, we asked and he told you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a kid, you're not a great player, but you want to know what it takes to play at, this top school. You got to jump higher. Yeah. And what a great thing. He didn't say you had to grow 5 inches. That I can't help you with, but because you got to jump 5 inches higher, hey, that's just hard work. We can
at least you have some control over that, right? To some
Right,
extent,
right.
you can try to jump 5 inches higher.
Right.
I don't know who's increasing the vertical 5 inches, but hey, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What else? What do you think would be most helpful for parents information-wise moving forward?
Well, I'll say I love the PowerPoint presentation you do at your recruiting seminars where you kind of give them the, I don't know if it's a triangle, I don't know what it is, but it shows them, here's the number of Division I schools, and it kind of breaks down the reality of, actually what it takes to get a scholarship. If you're a setter, hey, these are the numbers, blah, blah, blah. So I think that stuff's great. I think the part that when I talk to moms and dads who've been through it, or parents who are at the stage I am with my daughter, what we realize is we wish we would have known early on the commitment it was going to take to be part of the recruiting process. What I mean by that is, when parents think, okay, there's X number of opportunities for my daughter in her class, whatever it may be, when they're a freshman and you're kind of telling them 4 years down the road, this is the opportunities. What they also really need to know is, hey, you may send your daughter may send 1,000 emails, right? Your daughter may create, 50, 60 highlight videos. Frankly, you may have to help with that. Give them those kind of stats to realize that, or so that they realize the time it's going to take your daughter, the commitment it's going to take her, and it's going to take you as a parent. And so do you really want to play Division I? Does your daughter just like to wear the uniform and say she's a club player? Or does she really care about playing Division I? Because if she wants to, here's the formula. I don't know where she'll go, but if she meets a certain standard, she's probably got a chance, but only if she's willing to do 1,000 emails, 50, highlight videos, 100 phone calls. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but when you think about emails, 1,000 is probably
that's easy.
The low end of it, right?
Yeah, the low end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting. There's and you talked about like everyone's, because I always talk about everyone's recruiting story is different, right? You can't compare your recruiting process to someone else's. There are athletes out there that, and I had this conversation with a college coach out in California not too long ago, and we were just talking about like there's a select few athletes that literally have to do nothing in the recruiting process, where they just have to pick up the phone on June 15th now, right? That's the new date. Pick up the phone on June 15th and they will get offers and they will end up somewhere. And they didn't send a single email. They've never made a phone call, didn't send a text message, probably even never made a highlight video, right? And so there's kids out there that can get away with that, but that's not everybody. Like that amount, those amount of athletes, it's really, really small. And you're getting recruited by like maybe 10 schools in the country if you're one of those, right? And so for everyone else, so I think it's hard sometimes, like, because I do compare my recruiting process to someone else's and I want it to look like theirs. Like we don't always see the hard work that kids put in and families put in, parents put in.
Right.
And so we're like, well, they just got recruited and they didn't do anything. And so why do I have to do something, right? How come coaches aren't coming to find me? And then as a parent, like you're trying to help with the process and encourage them to do things, right? And like parents get frustrated and kids get frustrated, and it's just kind of it can be a mutual frustration for everyone. If, like you said, if you don't understand like the amount of work that it could possibly take to get to where you want to go. I think that's a really good point.
Well, and to me, it goes back to focusing on the journey and not that actual commitment date. Because, I mean, as a parent, if you think about it and said, hey, my son or daughter can go through a 2 or 3 year process, assume that they have the certain traits, right? I mean, if you're honest with yourself and you look and say, okay, I know she's at Division I, 2, or 3, whatever. And if you're honest with yourself and you know that, you know the goal you're going after.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, if you could spend 2 or 3 years and they're learning all these life lessons because they did 1,000 emails, because they went to 4 camps, or, I mean, by the time you get through all those numbers, you know how it is. It's usually the process that gets you to the result, right?
Yeah.
So most likely, if you do all that stuff and you're taking an honest assessment of your daughter and you're listening to folks like you're gonna achieve what you want to achieve, right? Relatively speaking.
Sure.
And so the other reason I like to talk about those numbers is because then it gives you some control, right? I don't know what coach may like you, but I know if you send 1,000 emails, you got a better chance of getting interest than if you send 10 emails. That's just,
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
No, and I know a lot of athletes will get frustrated. They'll send an email and not hear anything back, and so they're not interested. And I tell, like, you've got to send 3 emails at least before you just assume that they're not interested. Because I have good coaching buddies of mine that I've known for a decade now, and I have to email them twice and text them twice before I get a phone call from them. They're like, "Oh, Jason, I'm really sorry, man. I'm just really busy." It's just stuff gets lost, stuff gets dropped, emails get moved on, and text messages get thrown down their the text list and all that kind of stuff. So especially in the fall, but other times as well. So yeah, just staying up with sending emails and sending highlights, because you might send 5-6 emails to a school that you've never heard from, and it just might be that 5th or 6th highlight film you send them that they go, well, let me watch this one, and they're like, yeah, I really like this kid, and she's definitely gotten better from when she sent me the first highlight film 6 months ago, so let's reach out to her, right? And sometimes that's what it takes. And so I always try to encourage athletes, like, to just keep reaching out, right? They might have not responded, but it takes 30 seconds to send them another email, right?
Yep.
So yeah. So there's a lot of parents out there that are just now starting the process. What would be your advice for them? I think we've already hit on some of it, but anything else? What would your advice be for them?
Yeah, focus on the process. We kind of talked about that, and not the actual commitment. It'll work itself out.
I think that's really good.
Continue to gather data from everywhere. And one thing on that, we always talk about, people have bias, and that's not a bad thing. That's just, I have a bias. She's my kid, right?
Yeah.
And the more data you can gather, the more you start to understand really where you fit in. You've said it a million times. A college camp invite is not all created equal, right? Is it personalized? Is it a mass mailer? If it's a mass mailer, they're not being mean. That's their strategy. They're trying to get kids on campus.
It's funny. I had two separate college coaches at the tour finals in Austin tell me, and they just said this to me out loud, not in a like nothing. They just said it to me. Yeah, anybody in university athlete that's over 6'2" gets a camp invite from us. That was literally what they said verbatim, and I was just like, yes, exactly. That's what I try to tell parents, right? So.
Yeah. And so to me, gather that data, even when it's, we all have our economic constraints, but when you can go to camps, for example, when I look at a camp, I think, and the ones Ella's gone to, you learn 2 things. One, you learn where she fits in, is it the level that she's being competitive at, but it also tells you what they're looking for. And between that and looking at their rosters, if you're kind of invited to that camp because, like you said, you're a kid and university athlete over 6'2" or not. If you're an awesome outside hitter, but you're 5'9" and you're a stud in the back row, and you show up to camp, and the camp invite folks are 6'2" outsides that really don't have much back row talent, but they have a heavy arm. And then the current players that are helping with the camp are 6'2" outside hitters that have heavy arms and are not super back row players.
Yeah.
Think about yourself and say, that's probably not my fit.
Yeah.
No. To me, just gather data. Don't take it personal, and just get as much as you can. Think about the bias that, you got it from. And again, bias is not a negative thing. It's, why did they tell you that? Right. And then just keep gathering it and recalibrating what your, what works for your daughter. And then the other piece of information that's so huge is your daughter. Like we said earlier, as a freshman, she's going to say, I want to go to here because of these reasons. And her sophomore and junior year, they could completely change.
Yeah.
Sure. And so accept that and tell your daughter, hey, let's just keep talking through this because your interest and your desires are going to change. So, that's kind of the key to me, is get as much information as you can, focus on the process, and honestly enjoy the time you have with your 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid that Lord knows you wouldn't have probably otherwise.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Cool. I think that was good.
Perfect.
I'm gonna at least hit the recording pause